Our first topic in this course is symbolic action and the power of ritual. By the power of ritual, I'm referring to the way in which ritual is not simply a fun activity. Rather, ritual also has social and psychological effects. It is powerful. It can impact people's ideas about themselves and their relationships with others. In other words, it can be transformative. To explore these ideas, our reading and the video will take us to South Korea, Southern Africa, and the city of Jerusalem. Let's start with some background information for this course. All of your readings are written by anthropologists. Anthropology is, quite simply, the study of humanity. One branch of anthropology is cultural anthropology. Culture refers to a collection of beliefs, values, and practices commonly shared within a social group. Cultural anthropology as a field aims to understand and analyze the diversity of cultures worldwide. Cultural anthropologists learn about cultures through a variety of research methods, but the quintessential method is what we call field work, which involves long-term stay in the region, immersion within everyday activities, use of the local language, and an attempt to really understand people's lives and experiences. The type of writing we do is called ethnography, which is basically a description of culture. Ethnos means culture, and graph refers to writing. In fact, often fieldwork is called ethnographic fieldwork. Two other important terms for this course are ethnocentrism and cultural relativism. Naturally, one's cultural beliefs and values influence how one defines good behavior. Ethnocentrism is a perspective in which people use the values of their own culture to judge the actions of people with a different set of beliefs, values, and practices. In contrast, cultural relativism is the perspective that anthropologists adopt when doing their research. Someone thinking in a culturally relativistic way would try to understand how a person's actions are informed by or make sense within the broader system of beliefs and values. Adopting a cultural relativistic perspective does not mean abandoning one's own beliefs and values. It simply means that before rushing to judgment, someone would first try to understand why people do what they do. In this course, I'll ask you to adopt a cultural relativistic perspective and try to understand the cultural logic that shapes people's behaviors. Now let's talk about rituals. Rituals are replete with symbols. So, what are symbols? Symbols are a subset of signs. Signs, simply, are things that stand for other things. The meanings of signs, though, are not transparent. Not everyone reads signs in the same way. Humans learn the meaning or meanings of particular signs by virtue of participating in a culture. Among the different types of signs that exist, symbols are signs that have an arbitrary relationship to the thing they represent. In other words, the meaning of a symbol is established by the social group. Different symbolic systems will represent the same thing using different symbols. In the example given in this image, we can see that there are different types of signs that we can use to represent water. And the symbol that is used to represent water in the English language is the word water. You can see that in the bottom right-hand corner. Water. It's a funny sound, isn't it? Different languages and cultures will use different symbols to represent water. For example, agua in Spanish or Wasser in German. There is no necessary relationship between the thing, water, and the symbolic word for it, water. As with all symbols, to learn the meaning of the symbol, you need to learn it from cultural insiders. Also, many actions have symbolic meaning, such that the meaning of those actions makes sense within a particular cultural context. We call these symbolic actions. Examples of symbolic actions are making a peace sign, thrusting a fist into the air, placing flowers on a grave, and applying holy water. The meanings of these actions make sense within a specific cultural symbolic system. Victor Turner, whose name you will come across more than once in this course, launched a line of investigation known as Symbolic Anthropology. Symbolic Anthropology interprets rituals by identifying the symbols and the symbolic actions within rituals and decoding their meanings according to the perspective of a cultural insider. Your first assignment of the course is to read a short excerpt from David Hicks's book, Ritual and Belief, in which he gives us some basic definitions for terms that we will use in this course, including belief, ritual, myth, and symbol. The defining characteristics of ritual are that they include, quote, repetitive forms of behavior that are carried out on socially prescribed occasions and that convey messages whose meaning may or may not be explicitly known to the participants, end quote. Rituals are found throughout our cultural lives as part of religion and also outside of religion. Then you will read Tom Driver's chapter on transformation from his book, The Magic of Ritual. He makes an argument about the power of ritual, and he gives examples from different countries around the world, but I would like you to pay close attention to the examples he gives from South Korea and Lesotho. Lesotho is a tiny country embedded within South Africa. 3 sentences in Driver's chapter seem to capture the essence of his argument. First, on page 172, he says, quote, the business of religions and their rituals, then, is to effect transformations, not only of persons' individual subjectivities, but also transformations of society and the natural world, end quote. Then, as he says on page 188, quote, ritual is neither a detached contemplation of the world nor a passive symbolization of it, but it is the performance of an act in which people confront one kind of power with another and rehearse their own future, end quote. Finally, on page 189, he says, quote, we might say that ritual embodies the principle of growth or dynamic process through which a society transcends itself, praising, evaluating, rebuking, and remolding life as it is presently lived, end quote. We might summarize these sentences by saying that rituals actually transform the way that people think about themselves, society, and the natural world. And they do so because they oblige people to perform symbolic actions that directly represent the idealized self and idealized social world. Furthermore, rituals don't simply affect the way people think, but can also affect the way they behave. In rituals, people rehearse idealized kinds of social relationships, and therefore rituals contain within them the seeds of social transformation. This is the magic of ritual to which the title of his book refers. So as you are reading, aim to understand those 3 sentences and how Driver illustrates those ideas with examples. Following that, you will assess Driver's arguments by discerning whether evidence in support of them can be found in one specific set of rituals. You will watch the episode Jerusalem from the Sacred Journeys television series. In it, Jews and Christians from the United States embark on ritual pilgrimages to the holy city of Jerusalem. As you are watching, pay attention to 3 main things. 1. What symbolic actions are the pilgrims performing? What do key symbols and different symbolic actions appear to mean? For example, some symbolic actions you might pick up on are bowing, praying, walking along certain roads, touching religious objects, and entering sacred spaces. 2. What transformations are apparent in the pilgrims? What did they identify as the impact of the pilgrimage on them? 3. Then put those 2 parts together. Did the symbolic actions performed by the pilgrims play a part in their transformation? I recommend that everyone watch all of our videos with the closed captioning on because the captions aid in your understanding. Take notes while watching our films because that helps you focus your attention and remember important information afterward. I look forward to hearing your ideas in our discussion.